A lot of people who are new to marketing, they assume that a brand is really about the visual identity. But what we do at my firm is think about what is their brand narrative and why that matters to their audiences.
Hey, what's up, branding experts? Arek here, and welcome to On Branding Podcast. And today, my guest is Jackie Bebenroth. And Jackie is an award-winning positioning expert and an agency founder who draws from 2 decades of experience as a brand strategist and entrepreneur to help visionary leaders achieve transformation inside their business and beyond. Hello, Jackie. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Arek. Good to see you.
Thank you so much. Today we are going to talk about positioning, and I know you have your own technique, which you call productive distancing. So I would like you to talk a bit about that. But first off, can you explain to all the business leaders and marketing executives and family business owners that might be listening to this podcast, why do you think positioning is such an important part of brand strategy, and what are some of the common challenges that business owners and marketers face when it comes to positioning?
Certainly. So thank you for asking that question. I have a soapbox around it. But I grew up in the agency world. I've been in marketing and advertising for over 25 years. And I grew up as a copywriter. And through that experience, I saw the importance of a strong communication strategy to the performance of the actual marketing. A lot of people, especially folks who are new to marketing or might not touch marketing as much as marketing professionals do, they assume that a brand is really about the visual identity. They think about the logo. They think about the look and the feel of the site. They might think about the emotion or the personality of the brand as well. But what we do at my firm is really help them think about what it is they say, what is their brand narrative, what do they do, how they do it differently, and ultimately why that matters to their audiences. We help our clients think about that as part of brand strategy so that they can go to market with a strong communication platform in addition to a strong visual platform.
Right. That totally makes sense. So basically, you're saying that visuals are important, brand identity is important, but also narrative, verbal identity is equally important, or perhaps even more important, right? The communication, the words that you use, the story that you tell, all your messaging, right?
Yeah, and I have a great analogy around that. We like to tell our clients that if you simply spend all of your time and effort building your visual identity without thinking about your positioning or your verbal identity, it's almost as if you're dressing up a mannequin and the mannequin has no life. It has no substance. It might have like great style and it might be eye catching, but at the end of the day, it has no heart. So you really have to think through that positioning and that communication to give it a voice that is powerful and that is meaningful to the audiences.
Can you talk to us about your unique technique? Because there are so many different experts, branding and marketing experts, and everyone seems to have slightly different technique. And what's your technique about? How do you run this discovery sessions? How do you help your clients with coming up with brand strategy and especially positioning, and what the productive distancing is all about?
Yeah. So in working with over 80 brands, I've noticed one common theme. And I often hear the saying, I don't know, I'm too close to it. And it's true, especially small, mid-sized business owners, even executives, they are in the business. They're looking at it from a reactive standpoint. I know what is true now. I am making decisions that are potentially impacting my short-term objectives, but they don't often, they're not able to, or they don't have the time to take a step back and look at the big picture of the true potential of the business. And that's where productive distancing comes in with some techniques that we've developed to really help executives and entrepreneurs step out of their businesses with a combination of internal insight and external insight and look at what might be possible beyond what they're so close to in the moment.
Right. And I like the metaphor that you use on your website. So when you are inside the jar, it's tough to read the label, right? So that's basically what it
Yeah.
means, and productive distancing, you need to step back so you can have a better perspective on your business. Because if you are working in your business day to day, your thinking basically and your strategy is going to be heavily influenced by your own experiences and how you perceive the brand, not how actually your customers may perceive or the market might perceive your brand, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Can you just talk to us about some of the process and what do you do for your clients? So obviously you help them figure out the strategy and positioning, and where do you take it from there? I know you also do with messaging, storytelling, writing copy, and things like that. Can you talk to us a bit about your process?
Certainly. So I'll talk to you first about our positioning and strategic process and how then that flows into the activation of the new brand.
Okay.
So we often, in fact, almost always start inside the business. And I know, and I've worked with many other brand strategy companies across my career, and it's interesting to see these consultants really looking outside the business first, meaning they'll look for data around the competitive set. What are the competitors doing? And how can we uniquely position within that landscape? And then they'll look at the audience data and they'll be like, what are the buyers buying? And how can we shift our products or services to meet their demand? And what happens if you exclusively look outside for external influences to develop your position is that you ultimately lose authenticity and you don't stand for anything because you're so busy trying to be different from others or adapt to what the environment wants. At the end of the day, you've lost the integrity of exactly what it is you do. And so we always caution our clients never exclusively look externally to determine your positioning decisions. And in fact, let's start internally first, and then we'll pull in those external influences. I like to use the analogy of personal growth. If you are an adaptable person who can walk into any room and be anyone at any time, that's a great skill, right? And ultimately, you might find that benefits you in some
Yeah.
ways. But perhaps if you do that over time, you might lose track of who you actually are. And you go through this identity crisis because you're so busy trying to be something that you're not. And so businesses have that same challenge if they've spent many years of maybe potentially organic growth, adding on products and services because that's what their audience wants. They wake up one day and they're like, wait a minute, all of our salespeople are talking about different things. Our website and our sales materials are not communicating consistently. Nobody in the organization seems to know what we do and why we do it differently. Like these are the symptoms that the process of looking externally for validation and positioning, those are the symptoms that crop up because of that. So, all of that said, we start inside the company and we understand from the executive team, from the employee base, what do they believe the value proposition of the company is? And we'll evaluate common themes and discrepancies among those audiences first. Then we'll come up with a hypothesis of what that value proposition might be. And then we'll test it with the external
Mm-hmm.
audiences. And that's when we bring in that external data.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that is the key differentiator between how we do brand strategy and other companies. And ultimately, what the result is you're building a confident, clear, and very authentic brand that is true to what you do and who you serve.
Yeah, that's great. That totally makes sense. So some of the key takeaways. So you help them basically achieve this clarity, but by first looking internally at what they believe, at their values, at their business, and then you try to validate that and see how it fits in the overall, combining that with the data and the external view, right? And the market research and stuff like that. So you first look internally, then externally, and try to find the fit and close that gap so that they can build an authentic brand long term, right? Can you just share with us some of you mentioned that you work with over 80 brands, or perhaps either from your past experience or maybe of some of the famous brands that we can all relate and understand. Can you share with us some examples of successful positioning stories or brand strategies?
I can share with you the reason that I pause with this is brand strategy is in many cases highly confidential. So I can't necessarily talk about some of the larger clients that we've worked on.
Yeah.
But I can refer you to some of the brands that I admire
Okay.
that I think
Yeah.
are doing it right. And I think in many cases, it's these brands that stand for something beyond themselves. So that is ultimately how you elevate into your full potential. You might sell a product or service, but what your true value is beyond that. So Patagonia is a great example.
Okay.
Patagonia sells outdoor clothes or clothes for the outdoors. But what they stand for beyond that is this sort of honest, pure, demonstrative respect for the earth and giving back to the earth. And so I might buy from them to start because I need a new jacket and I like the style of the jacket. But I might continue to buy from them over North Face or any other outdoor clothing company because I believe in their demonstrative efforts to care for the earth.
Yeah.
So they do this by things like setting up a website called Wornwear. And they actually encourage people to buy used clothing instead of their new clothing. I've seen companies like Outdoor Voices do this as well. Outdoor Voices is a very popular sort of athleisure brand. How do they compete against someone like a Lululemon, like a monster in the space? They have content that is dedicated to helping all bodies become more active. This is an example of seeing very like being inside the jar. You're looking transactionally, how many leggings am I selling every quarter, every year? But if you really back up with productive distancing and you see the true potential of this brand, it has to do with that overall purpose where people share that value and they'll continue to buy your product. And I will tell you that shows up in customer lifetime value. So we look at metrics like retention, advocacy, those types of metrics are important to measuring the quality of a brand. In addition to the usual new customer acquisition metrics, we're often looking at customer lifetime value because if people are truly buying into that promise and premise, they're going to be customers for life.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. No, that's a great example. Patagonia is a purpose-driven brand. I love that brand as well. And I know they take different initiatives to convey that purpose and stick to that so that they can build loyal following, right? So that's great. And what do you think about the current trend with the AI? Do you use AI in your work, in your strategic work? What do you think about using tools like ChatGPT to help us do either market research or come up with some drafts for positioning statements and stuff like that? What do you think about all of that?
I love it. I think it's a super exciting time to be in marketing and exploring these new tools to help us be smarter, better marketers. I'm all about. We have used just to start, and once we define a brand archetype for a customer, like whether they're a hero or a creator or whatever
Right.
characteristics that the brand represents, we'll put that into AI and have AI build mood boards for us, have them build a full depth of characteristics associated with that archetype. We've also had AI help us building rationales for certain things. We've used AI to generate new names for different products.
Yeah.
So these are all, we consider this sort of an assistant who is supporting element to our team. Ultimately, I think the practice of branding a company is highly intuitive. Intuition is very underrated in our field. And it's not like I can go out and sell intuition to clients. That's not something that they buy. They buy data, but it's intuitive and it's emotive because at the end of the day, a brand, it is a feeling that you're giving someone
Yeah.
and their perception is really determined based on that feeling. And so I don't know that the bots have that capacity quite yet, but we're happy to use them as a supporting role as we move forward.
Yeah, I totally agree. So you basically just leverage AI, but still you need to do the thinking, you need to do the strategy, and then you can feed this whatever data you have, and you can just use it maybe as a copywriting assistant, as you mentioned, right? As an assistant, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's been great. Very interesting. If you guys want to learn more, your website is jackiebebenroth.com. So we're going to link to your website. And I think you have
Right.
another website, right? That's your agency.
Yeah. Muse headquarters.
That's your agency website. We're going to link to that as well. And I have your LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter. Which one are you the most active on?
Personally, LinkedIn,
LinkedIn.
and my business is at Muse headquarters. We're very active through the agency.
Okay, so you guys, if you want to work with Jackie, you can reach out to her on. We're gonna link to all those social media channels. And yeah, that's been great. Thanks for being here and coming on the show. I appreciate that.
Yeah, great to talk to you today, Eric. Thank you so much.
Thank you.